Hello all, welcome to yet another live session of Narayana IAS Academy. So, before we start, I would actually like to remind all of you that Prelims 2025 examination is fast approaching and it is around the corner. So, what is important for you to do in this particular period of time is smart revision, okay? Because smart work actually gives you hand in the last minute when compared to that of the hard work. So accompanied by your smart work, there has to be quick revision of the current affairs topics that can give you a crucial edge when compared to that of the other aspirants. So in order to help you in this final lap, we at Narayana IAS Academy have actually launched something very interesting. That is the Masterclass 2025 for the upcoming prelims examination, where the top 100 most important topics from every subject, be it polity, be it economy, be it environment and ecology, be it international relations, history, art and culture, and so on, will be taken. And these topics are handpicked, they are well curated after sufficient research, and they are from the high impacted areas, which is also based on the PYQs, and these have very high potential of appearing in the upcoming prelims examination. So do follow this particular course very diligently, okay, so that you can ace the 2025 prelims examination with comfort as well as clarity. Okay, so having said all this, I would like to introduce myself. This is Sureka Bhaskar. You would have actually seen me in the daily news analysis videos, and I will be taking up your environment and ecology sessions. Followed by these sessions, we will also be dealing with international organizations, the schemes, reports, indices, etc. Okay. So now, before taking you into the details of the topic, let me actually give you a gist of what we will be discussing in environment and ecology today and taking forward, okay, in the coming days. So now, if you look at this screen behind, we have actually divided the entire syllabus of environment and ecology, specifically the current affairs that have been in news from January 2024 till the month of March 2025. It's almost 1.5 years, right? So we've actually picked up all the important topics and we have divided as per the theme and the sub-theme specifically with respect to that of your syllabus. So for example, if you actually look at this particular screen, yeah. So I have actually divided the entire syllabus like this. For example, if you take ecosystems, which we will essentially start with today, under the ecosystem topic, we will be discussing about different types of ecosystems that have been in the news. Okay. So ecosystems include what? It can be forests. Okay. Followed by that, we'll be dealing with oceans. For example, the High Seas Treaty, which India is yet to sign as well as ratify. And then after the oceans, we will be talking about other kinds of ecosystems. What are the other kinds of ecosystems? It can be peatlands, okay, and it can be mountains, it can be barrier reefs, okay, it can be mangroves, it can be Ramsar sites, that is the wetlands as I told you, and then it can also be the cryosphere. Okay, so we will be discussing all this in detail, all the news that have been in the which have been in the highlight for the past 1 year. Okay, so this is what we'll be dealing with, the ecosystem. At the same time, if you see environmental organization and bodies, so this pertains to both the global as well as the national environmental organization. So when you take with respect to the nation, we can talk about the NGT, the National Green Tribunal. We'll talk about the IMD, that is Indian Meteorological Department. We will be discussing about that. And here, global, we will be discussing about the GEF. Okay, and we'll be discussing about the WWF, World Wildlife Fund. Okay, and also we'll be talking about bodies like the IUCN, their recent meetings, and the recent addition of the species in the IUCN red list, etc. We'll be discussing over here. Now moving on to the next subtopic. This is just a gist, that is I'm giving you an introduction of what we will essentially learn in the upcoming classes. Okay, so the next one is climate change. So in this climate change, we will be dealing with various conferences, that is conferences of parties that had actually taken place. For example, we'll talk about COP29 of the UNFCCC. that is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And also we will be talking about COP 16 of the UNCCD, that is United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. Okay, so apart from this, we'll also be dealing with the adaptation as well as the mitigation strategies for climate change. Okay, so this is what we'll be discussing under climate change. Moving forward, we will be discussing about biodiversity. What do biodiversity entail? It encompasses a number of topics like you have the biosphere reserves, we have the tiger reserves. Under this, we can actually talk about the Big Cat Alliance, whether India is going to host it or not. Okay, so all this in situ conservation, all that we will be discussing under biodiversity. Now, moving forward, different species in news. Yes, we will be talking about species like the Asiatic lion, then we'll talk about the lion-tailed macaque, we'll talk about the olive ridley turtles, etc. And also with their characteristics, their conservation status under IUCN sites as well as the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. All this we'll be discussing over here. Moving forward, we'll be discussing about a very important topic, that is climate change and pollution are interrelated. But since we have a number of news under pollution, we will be discussing about the air pollution, we'll be talking about the water pollution. Okay, under water pollution we'll be talking about what? Namami Gange, as well as a rejuvenation of the Yamuna. So all this we will actually be discussing over here. Okay, so this is essentially under pollution. Now moving forward, also you must talk about the groundwater pollution, that actually forms a part of water pollution only. Under groundwater pollution, there was a question in the previous year, in the recent mains examination with respect to the contamination of water in the Gangetic Plain. Okay, so you need to definitely know about this. So here, groundwater pollution and the recent report by the Central Pollution Control Board, all this we'll be discussing under pollution. Now moving forward, next one is waste management. Okay, so in waste management, we will be discussing about the solid waste management rules. We'll also talk about the plastic waste management rules, etc. Okay, so this is what we will be talking about, what are the different provisions of this rule, then the polluter pay responsibility, all that we will actually be talking over here. Next one, geography in news. Okay, that is towards the end of all the topics of environment and ecology, we will also be discussing certain articles or certain topics from geography. So what are all the possible articles under geography? Here we will talk about the differential rotation of the sun, which was recently in news. We will be talking about the pyrocumulonimbus clouds. This was also in news. And then we have the geomagnetic storms in news again. So all these things will be discussed over here. Okay, the solar flares, etc. Moving on, there are certain key terms in news that were over there. That was in the news for the past 1.5 years. So we will be discussing key terms such as carbon farming. There are other terms such as carbon colonialism. So carbon colonialism, these can be asked as one-liners. Okay, so carbon colonialism recently seen in news refers to which of the following or which of the statements actually are relevant with respect to this particular term, can be a one-liner. Okay, so we'll be talking about carbon farming, carbon colonialism, as I told you. Then we will be talking about blue hole. There are other terms as well, such as Humboldt enigma. Okay, so all these terms shall be discussed. Okay, so this is actually a properly curated work from different websites as well as authentic sources, apart from your Hindu as well as the Indian Express. This actually has geography and it has down to earth, and it is a combination of all relevant sources from where UPSC can probably pick questions and that can actually appear in your upcoming examination. Okay, so having said this, let us quickly move into the first topic for the day, that is ecosystem. Okay, in this ecosystem, we have again divided that into two or three. The first we'll talk about forest, that is different initiatives with respect to conservation of forest. The red initiative, where we actually try to protect the we actually talk with respect to reduction of emissions from deforestation and the forest degradation, that is the red initiative. We'll talk about UNFCCC, we'll talk about UNCCD, we'll talk about the conference of parties where India ratified, where India did not ratify. All that we'll discuss over here under the topic of forest under ecosystem. After that, we will actually move on to what is called as the ocean ecosystem. Okay, in the ocean ecosystem we will be looking at the high seas treaty, etc., as I told you. Then it comes to other kind of ecosystem where we'll talk about the mountains, the peatlands, the cryosphere, because we have the cryosphere atlas. All this we'll actually talk about. Okay, so this is actually the introduction of this particular class. Now let us start with this particular topic, that is ecosystem. Very, very important. Please pay attention, and this 10 these 10 classes will be more than sufficient for you to appear confidently in your examination. Now moving forward, forests. Okay, let us quickly start with the topic of forest. The first topic is the Peace Forest Initiative. Okay, so the Peace Forest Initiative recently had actually come up with a report. Okay, so you might wonder, what is this Peace Forest Initiative? This is nothing but it is a flagship program of UNCCD, that is the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. Do you understand? This is the so this is a flagship initiative, that is the Peace Forest Initiative, is a flagship program of the UNCCD, and this PFI, Peace Forest Initiative, has come up with the report. And what is the title of the report? It is Ground for Peace, Land Restoration for International Peace and Security. Very different, isn't it? So you will think, why Peace Forest Initiative is actually talking about, why the Forest Initiative is talking for peace. That is what it is. Here, the aim of this program is to leverage the restoration of the ecosystem, specifically in the conflict-ridden areas, in order to promote international peace. Very simple. That is why it is called Peace Forest Initiative. Okay, so bring peace through sustainable forest initiative is what the mandate is all about. Now let's move forward and see about the Peace Forest Initiative. Okay, so it is a flagship program, as I told you, under the UNCCD, that is United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. See, many of you might actually have doubts. What is this UNCCD, UNFCCC and all those things? Of course, you guys are not beginners, but even if you are beginners, this course is to clarify each and every possible doubts that can arise in your mind. What happened was, there was a need for conservation of the environment, whether be it the air, the water, the forests around us, etc. Okay, so the need was very strongly felt in 1990s. So that is why in 1992 there was actually an environment convention at Rio de Janeiro. Okay, so this was called as the Rio Earth Summit, that actually took place in 1992. So Rio Summit, or the Rio Earth Summit, took place in the year 1992, which resulted in the formulation of three conventions. Okay, so these three conventions were: number one, United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification; number two, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change; next one is United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity. So these were the conventions that were actually brought forward, and these were called as the Rio Convention. Okay, so as the name suggests, you can actually see, right? So UNCCD aims at protecting the degradation of land or combating desertification. Okay, so this was the last one which came, that is, this was signed by India in the year 1994, and it was ratified in the year 1996. Okay, then if you see the United Nations CBD, that is the conservation of biological diversity. So here India signed it in the year 1992 and ratified it in the year 1993. What do you mean by signing and ratifying it? Signing is nothing but just say, okay, I acknowledge this, and you just sign it. But ratification is that you take the law so seriously, or you take the convention too seriously, that you bring about legislations in your country in order to protect the biodiversity. Okay, so that is why we have the Biodiversity Protection Act that actually came in. So all this we will be looking into. Then the last one, then the next one was UNFCCC. Okay, so this came in the year, India signed it in 1992. I'm sorry for that. So India signed it in the year 1992 and ratified in the year 1993. So these were all the Rio Conventions, okay, for the conservation of environment. So one such is what? UNCCD. Now UNCCD has a number of programs, right? And UNCCD has number of initiatives. UNCCD, there will be conference of parties where the countries actually meet together, and those are called as COP, okay, Conference of Parties. Just as how for the climate conference or under UNFCCC, you have COP21, right? COP21 was the Paris Agreement that took place in 2015, okay. So all these you need to know. So similarly, COP3 under UNFCCC was the Kyoto Protocol of 1997. So all these things you need to know in detail, okay. So one such flagship program is the Peace Forest Initiative of UNCCD. This was launched in the year 2019 during the COP14, okay, that is meeting number 14 of UNCCD, which took place in New Delhi. This has been spearheaded by South Korea. And what is the aim? Of course, I told you we need to leverage the ecological restoration as a means of peace building, okay. So restore the ecosystem as a source of peace building, particularly in very fragile as well as conflict ridden areas, okay. So this is what is the Peace Forest Initiative, that is the PFI. Here you can see restoration of the, you can see restoration of the ecosystem here. Now this Peace Forest Initiative actually has certain principles, okay. So very easy and simple principles only. First one, first there has to be equitable access to shared benefits and from the restored natural resources, okay. So whatever natural resources you are actually restoring, there has to be shared benefits from these resources to all. That is why there has to be equitable access. And also whatever ecosystem services that the environment or the particular ecosystem provides, like water regulation, etc., there has to be equitable access of these resources. The benefits have to be shared, that's what it says. The next one, strengthening and enabling environment, including the governance and institutions. So there have to be proper governance, that's what it is saying, for the implementation of LDN targets. We look at the LDN targets, okay. So what are the LDN targets? So this is nothing but desertification neutral targets. Okay, this is also a flagship initiative that was brought about by the UNCCD only. Next one, encouraging the cooperation among the government as well as communities as well as private sectors, that is different stakeholders have to participate. Next one, include all sectors of the society, including the women, youth and other marginal groups as integral part of the implementation of all these activities. And finally, advocate and mainstream actions to promote confidence, then peace building as well as reconciliation, okay. So these are all certain principles of the Peace Forest Initiative. So we've seen what is Peace Forest Initiative and what are what to say, what is the 1 minute, let us actually see. Okay, voice is little low. I hope you guys can hear me now. If there is a so if you feel that my voice is very low, from my end it is actually fine, there's no technical glitch or anything. I just request all of you guys to increase your volume and keep it on the maximum, okay, so that you can actually hear. Okay, now let us actually move forward. So after seeing the after seeing the principles of the PFI, now let us go to the objectives of PFI, okay. So It is very easy, right? Ecological restoration is a basic principle. Through that, what you can do, there has to be transboundary cooperation. It is not only associated with one area, but there has to be transboundary collaboration. So this promotes collaboration between the neighboring countries. Okay, this is what it is. What they actually collaborate in order to rehabilitate the degraded lands and forests. Okay, so this is what is the first one in the border areas. Next one, we saw LDN targets. What are they? Land degradation or desertification neutrality. So this is what is the LDN target. This supports the countries to achieve the land degradation neutrality, that is to bring it to a standstill, balancing land degradation with the restoration efforts. So what is LDN? This is sustainable management of land resources. What do you mean by sustainable management? That is nothing but when we are actually using the present resources for our current needs, we should also take care that they are available for the future as well, okay, without disrupting that, okay. So this is what is called as sustainable management of land resources to support the ecosystem services and food security. The last one is peace building. Of course, when all this, the transboundary collaboration and ecological restoration, all that are actually done by peaceful means, especially in the conflict areas, there will be peace building because you're sharing the benefits also, right, of the ecosystem services, etc. So this is what it is telling. So there will be alleviation of conflict, there will be reduction in the conflict is what this PFI aims at. Now moving forward, about UNCCD, I already told you about UNCCD, right? So along with UNCCD, I told you first one, let's talk about United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Okay, this is one. Then UNCBD as well as UNCCD. So this is what we are actually talking about. Okay, so these are called as Rio Conventions, right? So UNCCD, India signed in 1994, ratified in 1996. Just a minute. Yeah, just give me a minute. Okay, yeah, this was a right order that I had written. The first one that actually came up with was United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. India, what was it? United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Okay, so here India signed it in 1992 and the ratification was done in 1993. So as a part of it, a number of meetings were taking place that was called as a conference of parties. There also, India has actually ratified the COP3, which was called as the Kyoto Protocol, okay, which took place in 1997 and India ratified this only in 2002, okay. So ratification means what? You actually bring about sufficient measures in your country also in order to take care, and the Kyoto Protocol addressed or it focused on reduction of the greenhouse gas emissions, okay. So this is one such, and the next COP was COP21, which is nothing but the Paris Agreement, okay. So Paris Agreement of 2015 and India ratified it in the year 2016. This actually focuses on what? The reduction or focuses on the what to say, increasing average global temperature. So they want to reduce the increasing average global temperature to around 1.5 degrees above the pre-industrial level. So this is what was the Paris Agreement, okay. So this was UNFCCC, that is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The next one will be your United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity, okay. So United Nations Convention on Biological Diversity. Here, India actually signed it in the year 1992 and ratified in the year 1994. Okay, so this is what it is. And then this, as you say, it actually focuses on the conservation of biodiversity, etc. So since India actually has ratified it, it focuses on what? It has actually brought into the law or formulation the Biological Diversity Act of 2002. Okay, so this is what is very, very important for you guys to understand. Is everything fine? Let me check the comment section also. Okay. Okay. So apart from this, there is also National Biodiversity Action Plan that India has actually brought about. Okay. So this is part of UNCBD, and finally came the UNCCD. Okay. So here I told you, signed in 1994, ratified in 1996, and India hosted the 19th conference. Okay, of UNCCD. So this is what it is. According to which, that is that LDN targets we saw, right? The LDN targets is what? The land degradation neutrality targets, where according to the LDN targets, India actually agreed in order to restore 26 million hectares of the land by 2030. So this is what is the what to say, the Rio Conventions. Now let's quickly look into what UNCCD is about, so that prelims, if even if they ask questions on that, you'll be able to answer. Established 1994, very, very important. It is the only legally binding international agreement. So now you need to think whether other UNCC, I mean UNFCCC and UNCBD are legally binding or not. Okay. So this is the only international legally binding agreement which links the environment and development, okay, together, and sustainable land management. Now the members are around 196 members with the European Union. Obviously the objective is to restore the land and to ensure just and more sustainable use of the land resources for a future. And it actually has bottom up approach rather than the top down approach. And the report this particular UNCCD comes up with is your global land outlook, because it deals with land, right? So desertification, degradation. So it is UNCCD. Now let us see what are all other such significant initiatives that are brought by the UNCCD. Okay, so let us see in the next slide. So it has flagship initiatives that I told you, right? LDN targets, that is the land degradation initiative, neutrality. So the land degradation neutrality target is actually brought about, according to which India committed to restore around 26 million hectares by 2030. It also has a strategic framework that came up between 2018 to 2030. So that is the period for this particular framework, where the nations have to come together and should cooperate on the degradation and the desertification. Do you understand? The next one, other initiative, very, very important. It includes the Great Green Wall in 2007 it came up with. And if you see in 2022, there is some drought resilience, that is International Drought Resilience Alliance, and also there is G20 Land Initiative of 2020, all, and then you have the Chang'an Initiative of 2011, and so on. Okay, so this is about the UNCCD. I hope you guys are actually clear with the first topic. Now let's move with the second topic, EU deforestation regulation. So let me see. Yes, Kunming Montreal Protocol in 2023. Yes, that we will actually deal with when we are talking about the High Seas Treaty. Okay, so there will be the marine protected areas where we would actually recognize more, or we want to preserve or conserve more of marine protected areas, that is the MPAs, according to the Kunming Montreal Protocol, where we actually have accepted to what to say, conserving 30% of the degraded coastal and the marine ecosystem by 2030. Yes, correct. It's very nice that you people are following it. We will discuss everything, don't worry. We will not leave anything behind. So now let's move to the second topic. Okay, so EU deforestation regulation. So the name itself says, right, there's a lot of deforestation activities that is going on. So EU has actually brought about some deforestation regulation, which means any product that is imported or exported out of the European Union should not have come from deforestation. Very simple, right? But now, in order to bring that, I mean, they have actually delayed bringing up this particular regulation by 1 year in order to support certain exporters. In that way, what will be the impact on India, we will see, because India is actually exporting a lot of crops like coffee, when you see leather and then rubber, all the significant portions of exports that India does in all these three items actually goes to EU. So if EU says If your product is coming out of deforestation, never enter my country, then that will significantly have a blow on India's exports, right? So that is why, and due to other reasons also, they have delayed this deforestation regulation by 1 year. Let us see. So to provide relief to the exporters of specific products, the European Commission has told that there will be a delay in the enforcement of the deforestation regulation by 1 year. So this is very, very important. Now let us quickly see what is this deforestation regulation. It is also, or it is formally known as Regulation EU 2023 and 1115. Not very important, this is the number of this regulation, okay? So this was adopted in 2023. The aim is what? In order to address EU's contribution to, so how much European Union is contributing to the world or the global deforestation, or how much it's contributing to the forest degradation across the globe and biodiversity loss, because of which how much of GHG emission it is actually releasing into the atmosphere. All this is actually the reason why EU came up with the deforestation regulation, okay? Now moving forward, the next one, what is the aim of this regulation? In order to bring the deforestation free supply chain. Supply chain is what? Nothing. Whatever products you are actually sending out or you are importing, that supply chain should be with products that are sustainable, that are not out of deforestation. Simple, okay? And to protect the human rights, okay? For example, if you are breaching the rights of some indigenous communities, for example the communities which will use the minor forest produce, if you are breaching that and exporting, then that is also wrong. That is why it brings about very, very stringent compliance mechanism also. You have to listen to it, that is products entering or exiting, whether it is the goods associated with the indigenous people or not, it should not come out of the deforestation. This is what is the EU deforestation regulation. Now let's see, there has to be diligence, okay? So what does that mean? Is any kind of exporters, if I'm going to export something, they have to prove that their products are not sourced from the deforestation land. Whether you're a big business or a small business, you have to abide by this one, okay? And also, according to the EUDR, there is country benchmarking. So countries are classified based on the low risk and the medium risk and the high risk, okay? So higher risk countries are more under scrutiny, and there are more number of inspections which are there, and if any country does not follow that, you will be having or fined with high penalties, okay? And you will have restricted access to the EU market, that is you can't export to the EU market, okay? So this is what is the compliance requirement under EUDR. So this is a simple figure that basically talks about what is EUDR law. That is anything which is linked to that of deforestation, we don't allow into our country. So this is what EU actually says. So what is the goal? Of course, to reduce deforestation, to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, and then the biodiversity loss globally. So what are all the products that are involved? Very, very important, okay? So they can ask you under EUDR laws whether coffee is involved, whether rubber is involved. Very, very important for you to take, okay? So important environment awards. Yes, we will discuss everything. So first we will finish off the most important current affairs. After that, whatever are the latest developments, I'll definitely discuss, okay? So here, the products that are involved, it includes soy, it includes beef, it includes even chocolates, it includes the palm oil, it includes wood, it includes rubber. All these things are included, okay? And also you have to keep in mind the rights of the indigenous people, that is the goal. Now, what will be the timeline, okay? So it will actually apply to both the small farms as well as the large farms. And then if there will be implications if you don't comply with it, what will happen? Your products will be seized and there will be fine up to 4% of the total turnover of the member states, and then your activity will be suspended or it will be prohibited, and finally your revenue itself will be entirely confiscated, okay? So this is what it is. The next one, the frequency of the inspection to, according to the risk level, if the country is a high risk country, then what happens? There is 9% for the high risk, 9% of inspection, that is high inspection. Then 1% for low risk and 3% for the standard. So this is what is the EU deforestation regulation. Okay, it's a simple one, but still you need to understand. There might actually be questions on the products that are included over here, or if there are non-compliance, what can be the repercussions that the countries will face. So all this can be. Now, moving forward, what can be the impact on India? I told you, right? Most of the coffee that is actually produced in India, it is exported. So, out of the total exports, if you see over here, in 2024-2025, the exports of coffee amounted to about how much million dollars? $1,146.9 million. So, out of this $1,146 million, what happens? $600 million of output worth is what we actually export coffee to EU. Okay, so $600 out of $1,400 is India's export to EU. So our coffee export will be definitely what to say impacted. So India exports, as it covers 479 tariff lines. What are 479 tariff lines? There are 479 different products that India totally exports, and specifically it will affect the key sectors if this the what to say deforestation policy of EU comes into picture. Specifically, it will affect coffee because 57% of the coffee exports goes to EU, that accounts for $600 million. And also, if you see, compliance with EUDR will require tracing deforestation free sources. Okay, so deforestation free sources are what? These kind of coffees, that is Robusta as well as Arabica. How, you can ask me here? What happens? It is actually seen to that the cultivation does not lead to the expansion, okay, of the forest. So this is what it is, Robusta and Arabica. Next, moving forward, it will also affect the rubber industry. Okay, so how it will affect the rubber industry? Because we are the fifth largest producer of rubber globally. Okay, so this is number one, and exports is around 25% of the rubber products, okay, which actually account to around 800 million annually to the European Union alone. So again, compliance actually requires that your rubber is sourced from deforestation free land. Simple. Next one, leather. That is 30 to 40% of its exports. That is 30 to 40% of the exports of leather of India goes to European Union. So stringent requirements are there. That is, you need to prove that your leather actually comes from, or it does not come from, the deforested land. Okay. So this is what it is. Okay. Now, moving forward, let us see the next one. This is also on lines of the deforestation. Okay. So, India deforestation statistics. So, let us actually see, there has been a recent report or the observation that has been made by this Global Forest Watch. So, what is Global Forest Watch? See, these reports and the organization that releases the reports, all this become important. Okay. So, here the Global Forest Watch is just an application, it's an open application. So, that has actually released some data with respect to deforestation, where it has mapped also the level of deforestation that has taken place in India, where it found out that India actually had lost around 2.33 million hectares of tree cover, okay, since the year 2000. So for the past 2 decades, the loss of the forest cover has been around 2.2 million hectares. So this is what has been the observation. Now let's move forward and see about the Global Forest Watch. Okay, as I told you, it is an open source application. Okay, it monitors kind of what to say, it monitors all the global forest, as well as global forest in the near real time. Of course, it talks about what is the status of the forest, how much has been the degradation or deforestation in the real time, and then this is actually done using the satellite data and other kind of survey studies and other methodologies. Okay, so this is actually an initiative by the World Resource Institute. Very, very important. This World Resource Institute is a non-profit research organization which is situated in Washington. Now moving forward, the primary data is actually gathered by the researchers who are at the University of Maryland. Okay, so this is what is about the Global Forest Watch. So primary data is given by the researchers over here, and what happens is that the initiative is by the World Resource Institute, which is a research organization, and then this particular Global Forest Watch is nothing but it has the compilation, it's a web application which talks about the global forest and the status. Now, let's move forward and see what is the status of deforestation in India. If my screen is not visible, let me try to zoom it for you guys. Okay, so now I think you can see. If you see the tree cover loss in India, if you see from 2001 to 2023, we are just considering from, for the past 25 years. In this period alone, India has lost how much? 2.33 million hectares of the tree cover. This is almost 6% of decrease in the tree cover since 2000. Why these data are all important is that sometimes it can actually come as one of your statements in your MCQs. Okay, so please pay attention for this, or even if it doesn't appear in your MCQs, you can actually jot down these points when you're writing environment answers. You can actually use these as the buzzwords, okay, so that it will be seen that you guys are very aware of what you're writing and you are well informed before attempting that particular question. Okay, so there has been a decrease in 6% of the forest cover. Next, moving forward from 2002, in the same period alone, we have actually lost around 414 hectares of the humid primary forest. Okay, so this actually accounts for 18% of the tree loss in the same period. Okay, and also the total area of humid forest in India has also decreased by 4.1% in this particular time. So what are all the major causes is that it is 1 minute. Yeah. So what are all the major causes for the tree cover loss? It is due to the anthropogenic activities, of course, but however, there are some natural events like the forest fires, etc. But majorly, it is because of deforestation and then wood logging as well as natural disturbances. The next one, if you see the fire related losses, okay. So there has been a loss of around 39,000 hectares of the forest, okay, or tree cover over 2 decades, and especially if you see with respect to India, Odisha has been the most affected state. Okay, so this is one it is. Next one is if you observe the regional patterns. So majority of the tree loss or the forest loss has actually happened very unfortunately in the northeastern states, okay, which includes Arunachal Pradesh, again Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Assam. All these places are there, and on top of everything, Assam actually has the highest tree cover loss is what we can observe over here. Okay, and now moving on to the other factor, let us see the carbon emission and removal. Okay, so what is carbon emission? You know, right, the trees are, they generally take in carbon dioxide. So during that process, the forest actually act as carbon sinks. However, when these forests are lost, what happens? Whatever, there will not be any carbon sinks. Oceans and forests are carbon sinks which store significant amount of carbon. When the forests are gone, then what happens? There is actually lot of emission of carbon and other gases into the atmosphere. So carbon emissions and removal. So all these are the observed tree cover losses. Okay. Now, let us actually move on to the next one. So, what are the initiatives India has actually brought forth in order to improve the tree cover? So, first one is National Afforestation Program. This is number one. Okay. So, this is nothing but it is a centrally sponsored scheme, and this is for the regeneration of the degraded forest and the adjoining areas in the country. Okay. So, whatever are the degraded patches of land, you just have to bring that back, regenerate the forest in these areas. So, that is why the National Afforestation Program had come. So, centrally sponsored scheme. Again, whether it is centrally sponsored or whether it is a central sector scheme, very, very important. Next one, the Nagar One Yojana. So, this is nothing but it is the initiative of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, where they wanted to create around 600 Nagar ones. That is, these are nothing but urban forests. Okay, in cities or towns, you have to regenerate this much, and around 400 Nagar Vatika. This is actually in the peri-urban or the rural areas for more, for leisure as well as recreation or aesthetic purposes like parks, etc. Okay, so this is what it is by 2024-2025. The third one is the Compensatory Afforestation Fund. Who gives this Compensatory Afforestation Fund? if any organization or if any company or any institution actually comes up with certain infrastructure projects, what they have to do, for every patch of land they clear or for every tree they cut, what they have to do is to give the afforestation compensatory fund, and this has to be given by the government to the states and the UTs to compensate for the forest land that is actually taken away for the developmental activities. And the final one is the Green India Mission. Okay. So what is this Green India Mission? Very, very important. Okay. So one of the most important or one of the 8 missions under NAPCC. What is this? This is National Action Plan on Climate Change. Okay, so this National Action Plan on Climate Change was brought about by the government in the year 2008. It has totally 8 number of missions, okay, 8 missions it has. So one of it is the Green India Mission. This is to increase the forest and the tree cover to around 5 million hectares and improve the quality of the forest and the tree cover, okay, of the forest and the non-forest areas. That is, the goal is to increase forest and tree cover by 5 million hectares and improve the quality of forest and the forest cover to another 5 million hectares. So this is what is important. So as I told you, the NAPCC, that is the National Action on National Action Plan on Climate Change. Okay, so here it has 8 number of what to say, the missions I told you, right? So one of the mission is this Green India Mission. The next one is the National Mission or National Solar Mission. The third one is National Water Mission. The next one is National Mission on Sustainable Agriculture. Next one is National Mission on Sustainable Himalayan Ecosystem. The next one is National Mission on Efficient Energy. Next one, National Mission on Electric Mobility. This was later added, okay, electric mobility. And next is National Mission on Sustainable Ecosystems. So these are the 8 missions under this particular National Action Plan on Climate Change, okay. I hope it is very, very clear. Okay, so let us actually move forward. So this is the India's initiative. So far we've actually finished around 3 topics. Now we'll move to the 4th one, okay. So Indian Forest and Wood Certification Scheme. Similarly, this is nothing but it is actually launched or a scheme by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, okay. So whatever wood products that you're going to export, it has to not it has to actually come out of sustainable forest management. Sustainable forest management is what? You can make use of the wood resources which are present, okay, in order to meet your current needs. At the same time, it should not hamper the availability of resources to the future generation. So this is what is sustainable management. So that is why recently Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has launched the Indian Forest and Wood Certification Scheme. Let us see what is that wood certification scheme. Let's move forward. Here, about this wood certification scheme, the key objective is the sustainable forest management. I told you what it is, and also agroforestry practices in India. Okay, agroforestry is what? You actually have to plant more number of trees along with your cultivation. So this is what it is. Next, the nodal agencies is, the scheme is actually overseen by the Indian Forest and Wood Certification Council. Okay, so this is a multi-stakeholder. There are a lot of stakeholders, okay, the government and everybody, and this is a multi-stakeholder advisory body. It is overseen by the entire scheme is overseen by this particular advisory body. Whereas if you see the implementation agency, it is the Indian Institute of Forest Management, that is the IIFM, and this is located in Bhopal. Okay. The next one, there is this National Accreditation Board, that is certification board for certifying the bodies under quality control of India. This will actually accredit the certification bodies. Okay. So certification, what are the products or what are the dimensions for which the certificates are provided? Let us actually see. There are three subcategories. Okay, so first we'll see the three main areas of certification, and then we will move to this particular benefits of certification. What are the three features of the certification? Is that first is the forest management certification. Okay, so this will first verify if there is responsible management of the natural forest. Okay, so this actually includes the ecological, social and economic aspects, whether you're using it properly, whether indigenous communities are affected or not. All that will be taken care, and that is when the forest management certification is provided. The next one is trees outside the forest management certification. Here you have to do sustainable management of trees which actually lie outside the forest also. Like when you're planting a tree, along with the agriculture that you're practicing, there also has to be sustainable management. So that is why is the trees outside the forest management certification. Finally, the chain of custody certification. So this actually traces the wood products that is there in the supply chain, whether it is actually sustainably managed or not, whether it is coming from a sustainably managed forest or not, is what it is actually seen. So these are the three main areas of certification. Now let's see what are the benefits of this particular wood certification. First one, enhanced market access. If I actually know that your wood is actually durable, it is coming only because of sustainable forest management, then what happens is that you will have more of market access. The next one is improved customer confidence. Obviously the customers will have good confidence in you, and this will actually strengthen your brand value and the brand image. And finally, there will be potential for the cost reductions. How your cost will reduce? When the government or when your organization is known for sustainable forest management and then you produce wood, what happens is that incentives can be provided, and because of this there will be proper planning and not haphazard planning of your projects. Because of this there will be less wastage of resources, so you won't be paying huge penalties for your deforestation. So all these things are possible cost reduction methods. Okay, so just because you have the certification, you can actually have all these benefits. Okay, now let's move on to the key features of this scheme. It's a voluntary participation, not mandatory. So whoever want to participate, whether it is the government forest departments or individual farmers or FPOs, that is farmer producer organization, and the wood based industries can participate, and incentives that is actually given in the form of cash. Okay, so that is actually given to your project. Then what happens? There will be increased demand for your particular product in the market. So this is what is your wood certification scheme. Now let's quickly move to the next topic. Let me see if there are any doubts. Ecology food chain. I would actually say that it is better for you people to stick to what we are. I'm actually teaching here, because when we come to the concept of food chain and the food web, I'll take it up, because suddenly when we are talking about the wood certification program, if we jump the gun and move to explaining food chain and food web, it won't actually what to say create a flow in our discussion. Okay, so let us actually discuss the topics we've taken up for today, and whatever doubts you have, you can leave behind in the comment section. Definitely that will be answered towards the end of the class or tomorrow morning. Okay, so tomorrow whenever we meet up for the next class, please do stick strictly to whatever is taught over here, because moving beyond is what actually results in failure of most of the aspirants. Okay, so this is what it is. Now let's move to the next topic, that is UN red. So what do you mean by red? This red stands for reduction in emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. So this is what? A reduction in emission from deforestation and forest degradation. This is called as red. Okay, so red and red plus. Okay, so enhanced variation of this only is red plus. We will see all this. Okay, so we will be seeing about the Bali conference and other things. Okay, and yeah, we'll start with this first. So UN red. So red and red plus are the key global mechanisms under United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. We already saw this. India signed 1992, ratified 1993. India also ratified COP3, Kyoto Protocol, Paris as well, Paris, that is COP21. All these things we know, right? So it is a part of UNFCCC, that is your red and red plus. So now let us actually understand what is red. It is of course the UN initiative in 2008, right? So UN initiative of 2008. The agencies that are involved are all UN specialized agencies, that is UN Food and Agricultural Organization. So food and agriculture basically deals with what? Hunger, food, fisheries, agriculture. So these are the basic key areas of focus of FAO, which is a UN specialized body. Next one, United Nations Development Program. Okay, so what does this focus on? Of course, development. Any kind of inequality is there in the society or not? Bridging the gaps. All that is done by UNDP. Next one, UNEP. Okay, so this also aims at, poverty alleviation, etc. So here United Nations Environment Program focuses on environmental conservation and sustainable development. Okay. So these are the three specialized agencies which are involved in this particular red. Okay. So this is the agencies involved. Now objectives of red, of course, to reduce the deforestation and the forest degradation in order to lower the greenhouse gas emissions. Next one, to enhance the carbon stocks through afforestation and reforestation. What do you mean by carbon stocks? I told you the more you plant, the trees, etc., they actually act as the carbon sinks. They store a lot of carbon, okay, from emitting into the atmosphere. So this is why there will be increase in the carbon stocks if there is, less of deforestation. Next one, provide financial incentives for the emission reduction, then improve the forest monitoring and governance. All these are the major objectives of red. So these kind of objectives are very, very important, okay. So that is what you need to know. Very, very important for your examination. Now let us see whether we have any comments or the doubts that people are asking. Okay. So let us actually continue. So this is the objective of red. Now let's move to red. Sorry. What is red? Yeah, again we are seeing about the financial mechanism of red. So here under red, the developing countries actually get financial rewards for what? When they reduce the deforestation and degradation, they get the financial rewards, and then funds are actually provided here based on the measurable emission reduction. So whatever reductions you have done, you just show me and I will give you the funds. So this is what it is. So this actually helps the forest compete economically with the alternate land use options. You can be confused with this. Yes, it will fight economically, Why? Because only usually what happens, only if we are actually getting an economic incentive or a reward, we will work, isn't it? So similarly, when the states actually focus on developing infrastructure, because that only is going to fetch them the economic growth, then why would they plant the forest? In order to give them the boost only, what happens? The red actually provides them the financial incentive so that you get money for doing good. So that is what it is. So this helps the forest economically compete with the alternate land use options like mining or agriculture. So this is what is red. Now moving forward, we have very, very important, the Bali Action Plan of 2007. So this actually came up in COP 13 of the UNFCCC. This actually recognized the need for financial incentives for reducing deforestation. See, definitely questions will come, okay. So what kind of questions might come here is that the COP 13 of the Bali Action Plan, this actually recognized the need for the financial incentives for reducing deforestation. Of course, so you need to remember Bali Action Plan, red financial incentive. So you can remember like this, you're going to Bali and you got a red dress by paying a lot of money. That's it. So Bali, you wore a red dress, then financial incentives. That's it. You can remember. Next one is also Cancun Agreement, Mexico. This is in 2010 by COP16 of UNFCCC. This was the agreement where the red was expanded to red plus. Okay. So far red was actually focused only on what, the emissions that is actually coming out of deforestation and forest degradation, but red plus also focused on other dimensions like conservation, then sustainable forest management, all those things. Okay, so this is what is red plus. Now moving forward, we will see what is red plus also. So this is actually an enhanced version of red. It includes forest conservation, sustainable forest management, as well as enhancement of the carbon stocks. Okay, here the developing countries will actually receive the result based payments, whatever, how much ever reduction in the deforestation you have brought or reduction in the emission by measurable targets you show me, I will give you the payments. Okay, and there is also an FCPF, that is for forest carbon partnership facility. This is a global partnership that will assist the developing countries in implementing the red plus. This is actually led by the World Bank along with the UN agencies. Okay, so this is what is the topic of red and red plus. Now moving forward, the sixth topic, international arrangement on forest. Very easy. All these are important topics at the same time. Easy topics. To an extent, you can actually see the MCQ liners, and you can actually find out whether you have marked it right or not. Okay. So the next one is international arrangement on forest. So India recently participated in the 19th session of the United Nations Forum on Forest, that is the United UNFF 19. Okay, so India recently participated in it. Let us see. Yeah, let us continue. So International Arrangement of Forest, that is the IAF. So India recently participated in the 19th session of the UNFF 19, that is United Nations Forum on Forest, and this is actually under the International Arrangement on Forest. So this is International Arrangement on Forest, and this body was created subsuming two other forums. Okay, so International Forum on Forest and one more. Let us actually see what it is over here. So International Arrangement on Forest, as I told you, it actually got established in the year 2000, and here this became a successor of two important bodies. One is Intergovernmental Panel on Forest, and next one is Intergovernmental Forum on Forest. Okay, so this won't be asked, but still it is better to know. So in 2000, it actually was a successor of the Intergovernmental Panel on Forest as well as Intergovernmental Forum on the Forest. The objectives, very easy. You have to manage, conserve and sustainable development of all the forest types. And also you have to strengthen the long time political commitments. You should have, any country committing to it should have a long time political commitment to the forest protection. And also there have to be implementation of the sustainable forest management. I told you what is sustainable management, right? You can use it now, provided that you don't deplete it for the future. So this is what it is as outlined in the UN Forest Instrument. Next, don't confuse too much with these words. Just understand what are the mandates and the objectives of this particular plan, whether India participated in it or not, whether it ratified something or not. That's what we need to know. Then enhance the forest contributions post 2015 development agenda. Okay, so you need to enhance the contribution of the forest. Next one, foster international cooperation. So international cooperation has to be multi-stakeholder also. The public has to participate, the private has to participate, and cross-sectoral collaboration. And finally, improve forest governance framework and the means of implementation. These are very, very simple ones, not that very important, but still cannot leave it because it's not important also. It's not like that, okay. So this is the about international arrangement of forests. So what is important to remember here, established in 2000, became a successor of two important bodies of forest management, focuses on sustainable management of forests. India actually participated in the conference recently. So this is what you need to know. It focuses on forest governance also, long-term political commitment actually has to be there, and also focus on the forest, what to say, contribution post 2015 developmental agenda it focuses on. Now, it has 5 important components. This is very, very important. Now, let me actually zoom this for you guys, okay. The first one, let's see the first three. Yeah, first one is actually United Nations Forum on Forest. Can you make it can you actually understand what is this United Nations Forum on Forest just by looking at it? Obviously, it would have been established by a UN agency. Okay, what agency is that? United Nations Economic and Social Council, that is ECOSOC. Also, you have, also it was established in 2000. So remember it like that. ECOSOC of the United Nations actually established United Nations Forum on Forest. Okay, so this again, what does it do? It focuses on SFM, that is nothing but sustainable forest management. How? Through dialogues, right? Through dialogues and strengthening the political commitment. So this is done. Next one, collaborative partnership on forest. Do you understand what is collaborative? So obviously, people will voluntarily come together and they collaborate. Okay, so voluntary interagency partnership. So next year to this, so 2001. So this comprises of 16 international organizations. Very interesting. So collaborative partnership of forest, not random people will come, right? So international organizations like the IUCN, the FAO, as well as the sites. Okay, so these actually came together. This aims to enhance the role of forest and the trees outside the forest in achieving the 2030 agenda of sustainable development goals, specifically goal number 13, which focuses on climate action. Okay, you need to know all the 17 goals. Okay, next one, global forest financing facilitation network. So what is forest financing mechanism? Provide finances in order to protect the forest, okay, for the UNFF activities. So for all the United Nations Forum activities, there has to be a financing mechanism. So provide finance to UNFF activities. So that is what it actually says. So these are the first three. Now let's move on and see the second two. Okay, next one is UN Trust Fund. This is what? This is primarily there to financially support the UNFF. So apart from the Global Forest Finance, facilitation network, there is also UN Trust Fund to provide or to voluntarily provide financial support and other IAF components. Okay, do you understand? So this is international arrangement of forest. Next one, UNFF Secretariat is actually present there. So this manages the logistical preparations of the meeting. So what are all the documents that are required? What are all the outcomes? What are all the conventions? Who are all the signatories? All this is actually maintained by the UNFF Secretariat. Okay. So these are the major, components of IAF, that is International Arrangement on Forests. Okay, so now we've actually completed this IAF also. Now very interesting, let's actually move to the oceans. Okay, so why I'm smiling? Because it looks very colorful and beautiful. So let us actually move to the oceans and understand what we will be discussing in different, about the different ecosystems in the ocean itself, like the coral reefs, like the what is about the high seas treaty, what about the peatlands, all that we will actually see. Peatlands come in the other section. So now we look into the oceans. Okay, so UN high seas treaty. So the Indian government is soon, 1 minute, let me see. Yeah, so the Indian government is soon going to sign or ratify the UN high seas treaty. Okay, so let us actually quickly see about the high seas treaty. First of all, we need to know what are high seas. Let me explain very, very quickly to you guys. Okay. So what are high seas? For example, this is your land. Okay. So this is your area of land. So land. Depending upon the high tide and the low tide, what happens? Your baseline is fixed. Okay. So this is your baseline. So from the baseline, so this is entirely land. So from the baseline, if you go 12 nautical miles, so if you go 12 nautical miles, this is called as the territorial sea or the territorial waters. What is it called? Territorial sea or territorial waters. So now from this land till this territorial water, it is your national airspace. It belongs to that particular country, national airspace. Okay. Now further from the baseline, if you go 24 nautical miles, this is called as the contiguous zone or the contiguous waters. Okay. So this is the baseline. From here 12 nautical miles is your territorial water, 24 nautical miles is your contiguous zone. And from the baseline, again if you go to 200 nautical miles, then this is called as exclusive economic zone. This is called as the EEZ, and whichever zone of water that actually lies beyond the EEZ of a particular whichever, yeah, from the land, whichever is 220 nautical miles or whichever portion of the water lies beyond it, then this is called as high seas. So here there is no particular country that is actually protecting and guarding the protected what to say areas etc. of this particular high seas. Okay, so that is why they have come up with high seas treaty that will actually bring about a framework in order to protect this particular portion of the ocean. Okay, so this is called as the high seas, and wherever your continental shelf, this is your continental shelf, right? So wherever your continental shelf actually ends and the seabed actually starts, this will be your deep ocean, and this entire portion is the international airspace. Do you understand? Now, do you understand which is your national airbase, which is your exclusive economic zone, and then what you mean by the contiguous water, the territorial waters, as well as the high seas, etc. So, this is what it is. So, India has actually not signed or ratified this treaty. We will see what are the reasons for it and what are high seas first of all. Okay, high seas, as I told you, part of the ocean outside a nation's exclusive economic zone, which is extending up to 200 nautical miles or up to 370 kilometers from the coastline. Okay, very very important. So that extends beyond 200 nautical miles from the particular nation's land. Okay, so this is referred to the international waters, or it is called as the open ocean. So this is not managed or protected by any particular country, and let's see how much of percentage it constitutes of the earth's surface. It is 43%, and 61% of the surface area of the ocean. So, of the entire ocean, 61% is your high seas. And then the total volume of the living space on earth, when you compare to that, this constitutes 70%. Okay, so this is what is the high seas. Now, let me take you through the diagram. This is what I told you. So, this is actually a baseline. Let me again zoom it for you guys. Okay, so this is actually your baseline. And 12 nautical miles, this happens to be your territorial sea, and from here to the 12 nautical miles will be your national airspace. Okay, and then from here you have 24 nautical miles, this is called as the contiguous zone, and from this baseline your 200 nautical miles is your exclusive economic zone, and beyond that is your high seas, and wherever the continental shelf ends and the seabed actually starts is your deep sea, or it is called as the deep, which constitute, all these constitute the international airspace. So this is what is called as the high seas. Okay, so yeah, let's move to the next one. So about the UN high seas treaty, as I told you, this was actually a legally binding international agreement, very important. Similarly, what is one more international agreement we saw that was legally binding? It was UNCCD. So this is also legally binding, and this is formulated under UNCLOS, okay, United Nations Convention on Laws of Seas. Formulated under UNCLOS means what? See, you have the Paris Agreement, right, under UNFCCC. Similarly, this High Seas Treaty is under this particular UNCLOS. So this particular High Seas Treaty is also called as a Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Agreement. Sometimes instead of asking the High Seas Treaty whether India has recently ratified the biological or the biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction agreement, if they ask, you should not be confused. It is High Seas Treaty only, okay? So it is also called, and here the aim of such a treaty is to come up with a comprehensive legal framework for the protection of the oceans and marine life, and this is especially in the high seas areas previously which did not have any kind of such protection. And also this treaty will function as an implementation agreement under UNCLOS, as I told you, just as Paris convention under the UNFCCC. So this is what is your High Seas Treaty. Let's move forward and see what is the current status of the treaty. Only around 91 countries have actually signed this treaty, and only 8 of it has actually ratified. So when this particular treaty will become an international law is that around 60 countries of this 91 have to ratify it, and once the ratification is over, after 120 days of the 60th ratification, this actually will become an international law. So this is what is the High Seas Treaty and about its international law. Now, there are key provisions that the High Seas Treaties have actually given, okay. So, number one, meanwhile, let's see if there is any question. Okay, so number one is demarcation of marine protected areas. You have to protect the marine areas. What are protected areas? The areas of the ocean which actually should not be used for other purposes, which have to be protected, from degradation and any kind of anthropological activity. So this is what it is, and that is where you have the Kunming Protocol, okay, where 30% of the degraded coastal and the marine ecosystem actually have to be restored by the year 2030. That is why we have the marine protected areas framework over here. The next provision is whatever benefits that you get from the marine genetic resources, it actually has to be shared equitably. This is number two. Next one is environmental impact assessments actually have to be done properly, okay, in order to ensure whatever activity you take place, you actually plant in the high seas, that actually has to be mandatorily it has to undergo the environmental impact assessment, not only to ensure the transparency and accountability, but also for environmental protection and conservation. Next one, role of indigenous communities is also taken into account. They should not be affected or rehabilitated. And finally, assistance is provided to the developing countries through funds. Let us see one by one very quickly. So, first one is marine protected areas, okay. So, the treaty actually brings about, the provisions of the treaty are very important, okay. So, the treaty brings about, there has to be a mechanism for demarcation of these protected areas, okay. So, these protected areas are like the biosphere reserves and the national parks that you do, or the wildlife sanctuaries that are on the terrestrial land, okay. So, it is similar to that. So, around fewer than 100 of around 18,000 marine protected areas are present on the high seas. So, the treaty aims to increase this number in order to abide by the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, okay. So, 30-30 rule, 30% by 2030 restoration. Next one, access and benefit sharing. We already saw, right, whatever you get from the marine genetic resources, the benefits actually have to be accessed as well as shared. For this, they have established a clearinghouse mechanism which actually facilitates easier exchange of communication or information among the member states regarding this sharing as well as accessibility. Now moving forward, let's see, the next one is environmental impact assessment. Of course, there is mandatory environmental impact assessment on any activity that can potentially damage this particular ecosystem present here. Next, consent from indigenous community. So, the access to the marine resources in the areas that are outside the national jurisdiction, which belong to the indigenous as well as local communities, they have to be granted. Okay, permission have to be given by the indigenous community in order to explore. Okay, next one, special fund for developing countries, we saw, right? So a special fund which is managed by the conference of parties, that is group of people, group of countries. This provides financial assistance to the developing countries in order to help them participate in implementing the treaty. At the same time, COP will also oversee the functions of the treaty. Next one, capacity building and technology transfer. Of course, there has to be, capacity building as well as the transfer of marine technology in the to the developing countries in order to enable the sustainable use and conservation of the marine resources. All these are very easy only. You just have to understand that these are the provisions of the marine or the high seas treaty, okay, which actually comes under the UNCLOS. Next one, very easy, blue flag certification. So what is this blue flag certification is what we need to understand. And what are the recent beaches in India that actually have the blue flag certification? Which country in the world has the maximum number of beaches with blue flag certification? All that becomes very important for the prelims. So here, the Kapat beach in Kozhikode and the Chal beach in Kannur. Okay, so this is actually your Chal beach. Looking at this, we have the holiday mood, right? Yeah. So the Kapat beach in Kozhikode and then the Chal beach in Kannur have been awarded the blue flag certification. So internationally, who gives this blue flag certification? You guys would have thought, the Ministry of, Environment and Climate Change, or you would have thought WEF or UNEP. Very few of us would have known that it is given by FEE, that is Foundation for Environmental Education. So this is actually Denmark based agency that provides certification, that is the blue flag certification. Okay, let us actually see what do you mean by the blue flag certification. So this is a globally recognized eco label that we give to the beaches. Okay, so it is a eco label certification program. So this is administered by FEE. We already saw it is an international NGO. Very surprising. Next one, it applies to all the beaches. Apart from the beaches, it also applies to the marinas, the boats, etc. And it is actually given for the cleanliness and adherence to the environmental standards. So if a particular beach is very clean, if it abides by the environmental standards, then what happens? FEE actually comes up in giving this particular eco label certification, that is called as the blue certification or the blue flag certification. This was initiated in France in 1985 and currently it is implemented around 49 countries. And the national operating agency who gives this in India, or who takes care of this, is the Center for Environment Education, and it will be under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Okay, so this is what it is. So Center for Environment Education. Let's move forward and see. The certification is actually given, how do they give that is by the international jury. Okay, this international jury has a number of members from the UNEP, that is the United Nations Environment Program. It has the United Nations tourism organization. Then you have the IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature. We did not even what to say, expect this, right, that IUCN will be involved here. So the criteria is that there are 33 criteria, and these criteria are broadly divided into 4 dimensions. Okay, let us actually see what are the 4 dimensions. The 4 dimensions, one includes environmental education as well as information. Under that you have 6 criteria. Then you have water quality. Under that you have 5 criteria. See, these dimensions are very important. Environmental, education and information. You just have to have the education as well as information. Next one, the quality of water, of course important. Environmental management, how you manage, whether it is surrounded by trees or not. All that is important. Under that you have the majority, that is 15 criteria. And finally you have safety and services, where you have 7 criteria. So totally it makes up to around 33 criteria, broadly divided under 4 dimensions. Okay, so these are the criteria. Next one again important, the beaches in India which have the blue flag certification. Let's go by states. Okay, so first let us actually see what to say. Gujarat. Let us actually start with Gujarat. So Gujarat actually has the Shivrajpur beach, that is Gujarat. Then if you come down, you have Diu. So here you have the Goghala beach. So Shivrajpur beach and then the Goghala beach. Then come further down to Maharashtra. You have the Bhogev beach in Maharashtra. And further down in Goa, you have the Miramar beach. And then further down, if you come to Karnataka, see, interestingly in Karnataka, you have two, Kasargod in Upper Karnataka, and then you have the Padubidri, that is Udupi in Karnataka. Okay, so here the Padubidri and the Kasargod in Karnataka. Okay, so first we saw Gujarat, then we came to Daman and Diu, and then we moved to the state of Maharashtra, then Goa. Now we are looking at Karnataka. Now further move down, you have Kerala. Right now you have the Kappad as well as the Chal beach in Kerala. So you have Kappad in Kozhikode. Okay, and then moving further to this side, that is to the eastern coast, you can actually see Kovalam beach in Tamil Nadu. So Kovalam beach in Tamil Nadu, and in Andhra Pradesh you will actually have the Rushikonda. Okay, so Vizag. So Rushikonda beach, where is this? Rushikonda beach, Andhra Pradesh. And if you see in Puducherry, you have the Eden beach. Where is Puducherry over here? Have we mentioned Puducherry here? Yes, this is the Eden beach in Puducherry. So we've covered Gujarat, Diu, Karnataka, Kerala, and then we have Pondicherry, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Rushikonda beach in Vishakhapatnam, and then the Golden Beach in Puri, Odisha. So this is Odisha. This is the Golden Beach in Puri, Odisha. If you actually see along the coast, these are the beaches. And also we should not forget Andaman and Nicobar as well as Lakshadweep. Okay, so in Andaman and Nicobar you have the Radhanagar Swaraj Deep in Andaman and Nicobar. Okay, so you can actually see the Radhanagar beach, Andaman and Nicobar. And if you see, the Lakshadweep actually hosts two beaches, that is the Minikoi Thundi beach over here as well as the Kadmat beach in Lakshadweep. So these are all the 12 Indian beaches that have been added to the list. Okay, so there is Chal beach also in Kerala. Okay, so now let us actually move forward in order to see what are the government initiatives in order to conserve the beach environment. So first we actually have the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, along with the Society of Integrated Coastal Management, SECOM. They have come up with this particular BEAMS initiative. What is BEAMS initiative? Beach Environment and Aesthetic Management Services initiative. Okay, so the objective is you should not have any kind of pollution in the coastal waters. Also, if there is any kind of infrastructure that is actually coming there, it has to be very sustainable, okay, of the beach facilities. Next one, protect and conserve the coastal ecosystems and the natural resources, and you have to maintain very high standards of cleanliness, and also there have to be very hygiene as well as safety for the people, that is beach goers, in accordance with the coastal environment as well as regulation. So you need to follow even the coastal regulation standards in order to achieve or to be awarded this particular blue flag certification. Now we have finished what are all the topics that we have finished. We have completed, we have taken ecosystem. Under that we've actually completed few topics under the forest ecosystems, whichever were very important for the examination, whichever have come in the previous years, right? Previous year as in from the month of Jan 2024 till the current date. Okay, now we have actually then we moved into the ocean ecosystem. We saw the high seas treaty and what are all the importance, why is it important for India to ratify it, what the provisions, 5 provisions we saw: marine protected areas, giving them the funding, as well as environment impact assessment, right, as well as sharing the benefits of these particular marine genetic resources. All this we saw. And then moving on, we looked at the blue flag certification. FEE gives it and CEE takes over as a national agency for giving this particular certification. So all this we actually saw, right? Now let's move to the other ecosystems. Other ecosystems, very very important, because not only this ocean and forest ecosystems, there are multiple other ecosystems like the mangroves, the peatlands, the mountains, etc. Okay, so you have to deal with that also. So this, what do you see behind me is cryosphere, icebergs, right? The what to say, frozen water. So this is what is cryosphere. Now let us actually move on to the other ecosystem. So there are two more topics. We'll finish that and wind up with today's session. Okay. So the global peatland hotspot atlas. Let me quickly tell you what is a peatland. Peatland is actually like a wetland. Okay. It is very marshy and where the soils are throughout waterlogged. So what happens is that there is formation of peat. So when there is lot of water clogging in this area, the plants that actually grow there, what happens when they die, they don't get completely decomposed. So don't decompose completely. Okay, so when there is no decomposition completely, what happens? The organic matter that is actually present is more than the complete decomposition, which results in the formation of peat. Okay. So this is what is peatland. There are natural peatlands as well as drained peatlands also. So there are different kinds of peatlands like mires, so which actually includes the fens, the bogs, etc. All that we'll be discussing here. Okay. So this is what it is. So recently, United Nations Environment Program, UNEP. So UNEP peatland, remember that. So this released the global peatland hotspot atlas. Okay. So that, according to that, they are actually saying that the peatlands actually degraded in 177 of the 93 UN member states. So out of 193 UN member states in 177 UN member countries, there are peatlands which have been degraded significantly. So this is what it is. Now moving forward, what are peatlands? These are the terrestrial wetland ecosystems, almost waterlogged all the time, where the plant material do not fully decompose. So production of the organic matter is always more than the decomposition. So there is more accumulation of peat. So in the cool climates, if you actually see, the peatland vegetation have the sphagnum mosses. All these are vegetations. Okay, so don't be too much worried about this. So sphagnum, the sedges and the shrubs, whereas in warmer climates we have the graminoids. These are nothing but grass like vegetation. Okay, so graminoids and woody vegetation, this provide most of the organic matter. So now we've understood what do you mean by peatland. So this is something, you know, that this is like, this is a peatland, exactly how it looks like. Okay, so here you can see the partially decomposed plant matter over here, and here you can actually see the water standing over here, that is waterlogged all the time. And then this is the portion where the water is saturated also. So this is what is actually called the peatland, something it looks like this. Okay, so this is what is called as a peatland. Now let's move forward and see what are the different kinds of peats. So sometimes can be asked in the examination, because UPSC is very unpredictable, you know. So types of peatlands. First one, let us actually see. These are classified into mires as well as mesotrophic peatlands. What are mires? This is nothing but, it is a peatland where peat is actively formed. That means what? Plant actually dies, no further decomposition. So organic matter is more than the decomposition. So active generation of peat is there. So this is called as the mires. Okay, so there are different types. It can be bogs as well as fens. Okay, bogs are actually called as ombrogenous mires. Okay, where the water source is mainly from precipitation. Okay, so that is called as ombrogenous, whereas the geogenous is from either the water source is from the groundwater or from the runoff. Okay, so this is what is called as geogenous. Okay, so the bogs are ombrogenous, bog, ombro, as well as the fens, geo. Okay, here the location is in the elevated, what to say, elevated above the surrounding landscape. Of course, this will be elevated around the surrounding landscape. The nutrient availability is very very poor. That is why it is oligotrophic. Whereas here, if you actually see, the nutrient rich, so that is why it is called as minerotrophic. And the location also is on a slope, or it is a flat area or a depression. This is elevated, this is in the depression. And then the pH, this is actually acidic, whereas the pH is generally neutral or it is slightly acidic. The vegetation here include the sphagnum moss and the acid tolerant species, whereas here if you see it is grasses, sedges as well as the rushes. So this is what the different categories of Myers. Okay, so one is ombrogenous, where the nutrient supply is mainly from what? It is very poor. The nutrient is very poor, and the water supply is from the precipitation. Here water supply is from the groundwater or the runoff, where it is nutrient rich. Okay, so this is what is called as minerotrophic. Now moving forward, let us see what are mesotrophic peatlands. Okay, so here the successional stage. Okay, so whatever is the transition of peatlands between the fens and the bogs. Okay, these are called as the mesotrophic peatlands. Okay, so whatever is a successive or the transition phase between this fens and bog, this is called as mesotrophic. The water source is from both. Okay, because it's in the transition stage, both from precipitation and groundwater. The nutrient availability is intermediate, neither it is too much nutrient sufficient, or it is under nutrition sufficient. And then this is moderately acidic, and the vegetation, it features a mix of grasses and the woody vegetation, sphagnum mosses, everything. So combined together is this particular mesotrophic peatlands. Okay, now we've completed the different types of peatlands. Now let us see the global distribution and Indian distribution of peatlands quickly. So the entire, if you see the total land area that these peatlands actually cover is around 4.23 million square kilometers. That is literally 2.8% of the Earth's terrestrial surface, and it is present in the northern and temperate regions, that is northern and temperate peatlands, where majority of the world peatlands are actually found in the boreal regions. Boreal region is nothing but it's an area between the polar as well as the temperate regions. Okay, specifically if you see Europe, Northern America, some parts of Russia, all these are actually found here, and this is due to high precipitation and low temperature climatic regions. Okay, so this is where the northern or temperate peatlands are formed. Next one, the tropical peatlands, as the name suggests itself, it is near the tropics, the Southeast Asia. Then you have South America, you have Africa, etc. So it can actually be in the lowland rainforest or the mangrove forest, where Southeast Asia actually has the largest number in form of the mangrove or the rainforest, and the Congo basin holds the largest known peatland. Okay, largest known tropical peatland. Here the condition is 84% are generally, if you see, of the total peatlands, 84% of the peatlands are in a very natural state. Okay, natural state is there is peat formation, there is continuous formation, there is organic matter, there is decomposition partially, all that keeps happening, but the remaining 16 have been drained. What you mean by drained peatlands? Here, using artificial means to drain out the water using pumps or canals for other activities such as agriculture or infrastructure or any other kind of economic activities, that is called as drained peatlands. But once you drain it, what happens? It's going to give out a lot of carbon, and that is where the climate change is also going to be affected, and then the biodiversity loss is also there. Okay, so carbon loss and environmental degradation will be there. So if you see, this is the global distribution of peatlands. Okay, so here you can actually see the distribution of peatlands by area of the country, where 5 to 10%, 5 to 10 and more than 10, this is the representation of the peatlands, mostly in the boreal regions. Okay, that is between the polar as well as the temperate regions. Okay, now moving forward, let's see the peatland in India. It occupies around 320 to 1000 square kilometer area, and specifically found in the regions of Kerala, northeastern region, wherever precipitation is high. Remember like that. Okay, so Kashmir, Darjeeling as well as West Bengal. Okay, where mangroves are there, there can also be peatlands. Okay, so these are the areas in India. Now let's see why are they important. Of course, climate regulation, because when there is lot of vegetation over there, it is very marshy, it is going to hold most of your carbon dioxide or more of carbon. So helps in carbon sequestration. If you see the natural peatlands, when left undisturbed, it can store about 0.37 gigatons of CO2. But if you drain it, what happens? It's going to result in very, very severe emissions that can go up to 1.9 gigatons annually. This is 5% of the global anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. Okay. Now, the peatlands actually have unique biodiversity, that is flora as well as fauna. So if you damage this, then the biodiversity loss is going to be there, where 60% if you see in the recent activities because of the human interference or any kind of damage, we have the Bornean orangutan population due to swamp destruction, 60% of them had been washed away. Okay, so this is why peatlands are very important in climatic regulation. It can be a question. Also, it provides the ecosystem services because water regulation is there. It can prevent you from flooding also. It can keep you away from drought also. Also, it keeps your surrounding area very, very, away from heat. Okay. So, temperature moderation is also there. Next one, the environmental concerns. If you actually drain it, then the water quality will be very, very poor. There will be pollution. Okay, and the carbon will also be released. How there will be pollution? When it totally goes off, the runoff of the agriculture as well as industrial effluents will be there. That will result in the seepage into groundwater. Thereby, there is pollution. Next one, the fires in the peatlands are very, very dangerous. For example, the 2015 fires in Indonesia, which released massive quantities of metric tons of carbon dioxide. Okay, so this is why peatlands are important. So what has the Atlas or the recent global peatland hotspot Atlas has told is that nearly 12% of the global peatlands have degraded. Okay, so it has degraded to such an extent where peat is no longer actively forming, and majorly if you see, regions of Europe and some parts of Asia are the hotspots of this particular degradation because of anthropogenic activities. Next one, the human activity is releasing, I mean, it is actually also resulting in a lot of emissions from the degraded peatlands, and that has contributed to around 1.41 metric tons of carbon dioxide per year. That is why when there is so much of greenhouse gas released, what happens? It will actually change the temperature. So there is actually global warming. When there is global warming, what happens? There is melting of the cryosphere or the icebergs or the ice caps. So this results in the sea level rise, because of which we have submergence of the coastal areas. Okay, because of which there will be rehabilitation, because of which there are political problems. Okay, so and also there will be economic constraints. So all that is affected. Also social constraints like livelihood of the people is lost, etc. So you can connect it that way. Okay, so here we finished the ninth topic. The last topic, very, very easy topic, and sorry, we are actually left with certain conservation efforts of peatlands. These are very easy only. First is global peatland initiative. This was actually come up in the UNFCCC COP in Maharashtra, in Marrakesh, sorry, not Maharashtra, in Marrakesh. And next one is International Peatland Society is there. It has a number of institutional members, where it was set up in the year 1968 in Canada. Okay, and also it is a registered NGO in Finland. Do you understand? And also the Maya conservation, we saw, right, one type of the peatland. So here the Maya conservation group was there, established in 1984 internationally in order to conserve this particular peatland. Okay, so this is what it is. Now moving forward, this is the last topic that we'll be discussing today, after which we will actually close for the day. Yeah, so mountain partnership. So this is about the mountain ecosystem, right? So recently the mountain partnership played a very, very important role on the International Mountain Day celebrations, which actually took place on 11th of December 2024. And this was there or observed with the theme Mountain Solutions for a Sustainable Future. Simple. Keep the mountain system sustainable so that you will have a sustainable future. Everything is sustainable. Forest is sustainable. then the plants is sustainable, then use your minor forest produce as a sustainable, this one, then peatland sustainable, and this is mountain solution for a sustainable future. About this partnership, this is nothing but, did you know that mountain partnership is a UN voluntary alliance? No, most of us would not have known, right? So the Mountain Partnership is a United Nations voluntary alliance which helps in improving the livelihoods of the mountain people, protecting the mountain environments worldwide. This was established in 2002 during the Sustainable Development World Summit. The members is around 550 members, governments, NGOs, civil society organizations, all of them are there. India part of it or not? Yes, it is an active member. It is headquartered. Do you know it actually is in the FAO headquarters, that is in Rome, Italy. So it is hosted by FAO. It does not have a separate headquarter, so it is hosted by FAO, which the headquarter of which is present in Rome, Italy. Okay. Now let's move forward. Of course, the mission and vision is that by 2030, the world should have empowered mountain communities and increased public as well as private sector commitment. There has to be proper investment in bringing about sustainable mountain development. Also, it has to address the climate and the biodiversity crisis in the mountains. At the same time, what are all the social as well as the economic well-being of the mountain people, and also have to promote the sustainable use of mountain ecosystem. So everywhere there has to be sustainable use. Okay, so whenever there is a statement of sustainable use, just blindly close your eyes and tick yes, this is correct. So next one, if we move forward, we will actually see key initiatives, which will be the last initiative for the day. So Mountain Partnership actually has initiative like Mountain Partnership Products Initiative. Okay, so this focuses on supporting sustainable livelihoods of the mountain farmers, okay, with respect to what are all the products that are grown in the mountainous region. Next one is global framework for mountain development. This is also it is a voluntary framework in order to support the sustainable mountain development between 2023 to 2027 for the period of 5 years. Next one is mountain youth hub. Okay, obviously you have to realize the potential of the youth in the mountainous regions worldwide, not only in the nation. Okay, so this is the end of it. So we've actually come to the end of one of the most valuable and sought after discussions for environment and ecology current affairs. This becomes extremely important because the last minute revision of all the topics from A to Z is not possible. So please do diligently follow this lecture so that you have a hang of the current affairs, and so that you integrate this preparation along with your static syllabus revision. Okay, so every day, 1.5 hours of this session is going to be of great help, as it is going to reflect a number of questions that is going to be asked in your upcoming preliminary as well as the mains examination. So please do follow us regularly for the further updates. Okay, so I will actually meet you with yet another live session tomorrow. Until then, it's bye, take care.